In the heart of Oakhaven, fear speaks louder than truth. One woman is accused of witchcraft, but exile awakens a power the village never expected. When the world labeled her a witch, the wilderness called her chosen. Welcome to African Tales by Call, where African stories come alive. Subscribe and join our storytelling family. The sun didn't simply shine on the village of Oakhaven, it attacked it. Its blistering rays pressed down on the earth like punishment from an angry god. The villagers squinted under the glare, yet their eyes remained sharp, trained not on the sky, but on Alara. Her dress, a patchwork mosaic of faded cloth, clung to her thin frame, revealing a life carved by hunger and endurance. But her eyes, her eyes were the problem. People whispered that they were too deep, too watchful, eyes that seemed to see what others tried to hide. On the village outskirts, where the wind carried the lonely cries of distant hyenas, stood her hut. Mud walls slumped inward as though exhausted from simply existing, and the thatched roof sagged like a dying bird. Alara lived there alone. No husband, no children, no family. While Oakhaven laughed together, cooked together, prayed together, Alara bore her silence like a grave. But solitude was not what made the villagers whisper. It was her knowledge, her strange talent for returning from the savannah with plants others swore had vanished long ago. Rare herbs clung to her fingertips as easily as dust, and she always seemed to know exactly where to search. People began to say that no mortal could find what she found. Whispers grew like weeds. First subtle. A baby fell ill, and someone remembered Alara had passed by that morning. A goat went missing, and a neighbor murmured that he had seen her shadow against the field at dusk, a shadow too long to belong to a mere woman. Oakhaven was familiar with poverty, but Alara's suffering was different. It never relented, never broke her, and that frightened people more than hunger ever could. Then the storm came. It roared out of a cloudless sky as if ripped open by wrath. Winds clawed at roofs, tearing them away like paper. Rain slashed the earth with ice-cold fury, flooding the fields. Lightning struck the sacred Irako tree in the center of the village, splitting it in half. When the chaos finally retreated, Oakhaven lay wounded. Homes destroyed, crops ruined, livestock vanished into the flood. Fear, pure, ravenous fear, spread through the village faster than the storm had. People sought a reason, a target, something to hold responsible. And like vultures to a carcass, their minds swooped to the same conclusion. Alara walks with spirits, a woman screamed, her voice cracked with panic. Her eyes swallow the night, a man shouted, pointing a trembling finger toward the outskirts. That storm arrived the same day she gathered herbs near the river. Torches ignited. Drums started. The crowd surged with terrifying, unified purpose. Alara was dragged to the village square, dust rising around her ankles, hands clutching her arms. Yet her face remained still, carved from weary dignity. Though her heart hammered against her ribs, she refused to let them see fear. Chief Obi stood before her, his ceremonial staff trembling in his hand. His voice, once a pillar of reason, wavered. Alara of Oakhaven, he declared, you are accused of summoning misfortune. You are accused of dark magic. The words fell like stones. The crowd roared. Alara lifted her chin and answered, her voice soft but steady. I gather herbs to heal wounds, not to create them. But her truth was drowned beneath the violent thunder of 100 condemning voices. Chief Obi lifted a wooden bowl from one of the attendants. Carved with ancient markings and stained by generations of ritual, it was a relic meant only for the gravest of accusations. The crowd hushed as he poured water from a calabash into the bowl. The liquid caught the torchlight, shimmering like a captive moon. The spirits will reveal the truth, he announced. If she lies, the water will darken. Gasps rippled across the square. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Alara stared at the bowl. The water was clear, calm. Too calm. Every instinct urged her to run, to vanish into the savannah, to disappear forever. But running would brand her guilty. So she remained, spine straight, dignity the only shield she had left. I have harmed no one, she said softly. Her voice, though quiet, cut through the silence like a blade. She dipped her fingers into the water. At that exact moment, a sudden gust of wind swept across the square. The torch flames danced wildly. The bowl trembled in the chief's hands, and the water rippled. Just a small shiver on its surface, nothing more. But for a crowd already primed with terror, it was enough. There! Look, a villager cried. The water recoils from her touch. Another woman shrieked. She commands the wind. In an instant, Fear mutated into certainty. The villagers' eyes widened, their backs arched like cornered animals. No proof was needed. Their fear was the proof. A rock flew from the back of the crowd, striking Alara's shoulder. She gasped, stumbling sideways. Another stone followed, then another. The chief shouted for order, but his voice was swallowed by the rising fury of the mob. Stones turned into fists, fists into shoves, shoves into violence without reason or restraint. Alara did not cry out. She refused to. She met their hatred with silence, with dignity. The first tear did not fall because of pain. It fell because she finally understood. These people had once been her family. She had given them herbs, comfort, healing. And in return, they were willing to destroy her to silence their own fear. Chief Obi slammed the bottom of his staff against the ground, sending vibrations through the square. His voice cracked with desperation. Enough! The crowd froze. Sweat streamed down their faces, their chests heaving. Hungry for blood, frightened of themselves. He turned to Alara, his expression carved from agony and duty. You must leave Oakhaven before the next sunrise. If you remain, the tribe will take matters into their own hands. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The crackle of torches, the distant howl of hyenas, the pounding of Alara's heart, all merged into a single, suffocating moment. Exile was worse than punishment. Exile was a death sentence. The savannah was a ruthless beast that swallowed the unprotected and the unloved. Alara lifted her chin. Pride straightened her spine even as blood trickled from her temple. If I must walk into the unknown, she whispered, I will walk as one who has nothing left to fear. Gasps whispered through the crowd, some of shock, some of shame, some of fascination. Even in disgrace, she held more strength than any of them dared to possess. As the villagers stepped back, forming a narrow pathway, Alara walked through them alone. Torches lit her path like a corridor of judgment. Children clutched their mothers. Men turned their faces away. Sparks leapt from flames and floated into the night, like tiny souls trying to follow her. When she reached the edge of the square, she paused, just once, and looked back. They met her gaze, but saw only the monster they had invented. Alara stepped into the darkness. The village exhaled. And somewhere in the wild, the unknown waited. Night wrapped around Alara like a shroud. The flames of Oakhaven faded behind her, shrinking into distant, trembling stars. The savannah stretched endlessly before her, a sea of darkness broken only by silver glints of moonlight on dry grass. Every crunch beneath her bare feet echoed across the vast emptiness. The world suddenly felt too large, too silent, as if even the wind was waiting to see what she would do next. She walked without direction, guided only by instinct and bitterness. Her arms trembled. Her body ached. But her spirit, battered and bleeding, refused to bow. They cast me out to die, she whispered to the night, but I will not give them that victory. Hours passed. The moon traveled across the sky like a watchful guardian. The sound of rustling grass accompanied her, until she realized it was not the wind. 3 pairs of glowing eyes appeared from behind an acacia tree, low and predatory. Hyenas. Their eerie laughter drifted through the night like a chorus of madness. Alara froze. Her breath caught in her throat. The creatures slowly circled her, their bodies slinking closer, muscles coiled to pounce. She knew one wrong move could be her last. I am not your prey, she whispered. Her voice trembled, but held authority she didn't recognize. For reasons she could not explain, the hyenas paused. Their ears twitched. Their growls softened. One stepped closer, sniffing her, its golden eyes locked on hers. Instead of tearing her apart, it bowed, slowly, before turning and trotting into the tall grass. The others followed. Alara stood rooted in shock. They had acknowledged her. Her heart thundered. Something ancient stirred inside her blood, like a sleeping ember suddenly sparked awake. Those villagers claimed she spoke to hyenas, and the hyenas had obeyed. She pressed a trembling hand to her chest. What are you? She whispered to herself. Dawn found her staggering toward a cluster of trees at the base of a rocky hill. Her legs felt like reeds, fragile and ready to snap. When she reached the shade, her body finally collapsed. Her cheek pressed against the cool earth. Darkness swallowed her consciousness. She awoke to the sound of rushing water. Alara forced her eyes open and found herself lying beside a hidden stream, its surface sparkling with morning light. A small bundle of herbs lay beside her, perfectly arranged. Not scattered. Placed. Someone or something had been there. Alara looked around, heart pounding. Who's there? No answer. only the calming hush of water. She washed her face and drank deeply, strength returning to her limbs. When she rose, she noticed faint symbols carved into the rocks, spirals, crescents, markings older than any tribe. A chill ran down her spine. She was not the first to stand in this place. As she traced her fingers along the carvings, a sudden sensation rushed through her, a pulse of heat, then clarity. Visions flashed behind her eyes, a woman gathering herbs, standing alone at the edge of a village, accused, exiled, powerful. Another, and another, a lineage of outcasts, a line of women who carried something the village feared. Breath shaky, she stepped back. I belong to them, she murmured, realization settling like dawn over her soul. Her grandmother had not simply taught her herbs. She had taught her tradition, one the world had forgotten, or perhaps rejected. Alara was not cursed. She was chosen. The air thickened. The stream darkened as a shadow passed overhead. Alara looked up and froze. Perched on a rock above the water was a massive black hawk, feathers so dark they swallowed the sunlight. Its eyes, piercing and intelligent, studied her as though it knew her deepest secrets. You called me, a voice echoed, not aloud but inside her mind. Alara stumbled backward. Her pulse raced. The hawk spread its wings, casting a vast shadow that stretched all the way to her feet. You are the last of the bloodline, the voice continued. You are not powerless. You are unawakened. Fear warred with awe in her chest. Slowly, almost reverently, the hawk extended one talon. Hanging from it was an object, a pendant shaped like a crescent moon made of polished bone. Alara reached out with trembling fingers. Heat rushed through her arm the moment she touched it. A storm of memories, hers and those of women she had never met, exploded behind her eyes. When the vision faded, Alara stood taller than she ever had. The pendant rested against her collarbone, pulsing with warmth. Somewhere distant, the village drums of Oakhaven echoed, calling morning assembly. Alara clenched her fists. The villagers had cast her out expecting her to break. Instead, they had awakened her. Alara stood at the edge of the stream, staring at her reflection. The pendant shimmered against her chest, casting silver ripples across the water. For the first time since her exile, her reflection didn't look broken. It looked formidable. The timid woman they cast out was gone. In her place stood someone reborn by fire, storm, and truth. The hawk's voice resonated through her mind again, steady and commanding. Your power is not in vengeance. It is in balance. Alara clenched her fists, anger burning hot and wild inside her. They tried to kill me, she whispered. They deserved to taste the fear they fed me. The hawk blinked, its golden eyes unyielding. Power rooted in hatred consumes the wielder. Choose wisely. Alara turned toward the path leading back to Oakhaven. The morning sun had risen fully now, spilling light across the savannah like molten gold. Each step she took was fueled not by rage, but by purpose. She would not return as the frightened, isolated girl they tried to break. She would return as the truth they refused to accept. The village square was buzzing with agitation when she arrived. Villagers crowded around Chief Obi, voices sharp with dread. The crops are failing again, someone wailed. The storm last night destroyed our stored grain, another cried. Soil crumbled in their hands like sand, lifeless. Fear wrapped the village like choking vines. Alara stepped into the square without hesitation. Gasps ripped through the air. Mothers dragged their children behind them. Men reached instinctively for spears they didn't actually carry. To them, she looked different, her posture unbreakable, her presence unsettling, her pendant glowing against her skin. She wasn't just Alara anymore. She was a storm wearing human form. Chief Obi stepped forward, eyes wide, hands trembling. You were to die in the wild. Alara met his gaze without blinking. I am not so easy to kill. She lifted her hands, palms open. Wind stirred around her ankles, swirling upward like an unseen cloak. Your fear made me an enemy. Your cruelty made me powerful. The earth trembled. Not violently, just enough to make every villager freeze. Dust rose from the ground like a sigh. The withered crops in the elders' hands suddenly sprouted vibrant green shoots. Gasps of disbelief broke through the tension. A child reached out to touch the new growth, all washing across her tiny face. Alara's voice carried across the square, soft yet thunderous. I came not to curse you, but to show you what you destroyed. Silence fell, heavy, suffocating. Shame rippled through the crowd like a wave. The villagers had feared her because they could not understand her. They had chosen violence over curiosity, hatred over compassion. Chief Obi sank to his knees before her, his voice breaking. "We wronged you. We wronged the spirits. Forgive us." Alara stood perfectly still. For a long moment, she considered letting the village starve, not out of malice, but simply to give them the outcome they had sentenced her to. But she remembered the hawk's warning. Power rooted in hatred consumes the wielder. With a steady breath, she touched the pendant. Light rippled outward, spreading across the ground like dawn. Fields revived. Water wells cleared. The village exhaled in relief. Alara turned away, her silhouette framed by the rising sun. "I forgive you," she said, without looking back. "But I will not return." She walked toward the horizon, the hawk soaring above her like a shadow with wings. She didn't need the village anymore. She had found her lineage, her power, and her purpose. In the vast, wild expanse of the savannah, Alara finally understood. Being cast out was not her end. It was her beginning. Please like and subscribe to African Tales by Call.